Okay, this next part's going to be for NBT2, or specifically rounding using place value and that knowledge of the place value. You can see on the board, I have the question. It's going to say round to the nearest tens or round to the tens or whatever place value you're rounding to. I always start with a smaller number, usually in the tens, just so kids don't get scared as they're learning the development of it. And then we'll get into bigger numbers. So started with 24. I have a number chart. A number line, sorry. And I have it up and down just to really drive home that visual aspect of we're going up and we're going down. You can turn it sideways, and even better if you turn it sideways and up and down so that they are able to do both, depending on whatever they see. And then I have this just conceptual understanding of a visual, that numbers from 1, 2, 3, and 4, nothing's going to happen to them, and 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to go up to the next number. So when I start with a question like this, I'm going to say, class, today we're going to learn on how to round to the nearest tens place value. I always use that word place value because in our last lesson, we just really drove home the point of place value. So now they really understand that. And I'm going to say the place value of tens. We have to start with finding that place value. Where is the tens? We're going to ask them to underline it just so that it's there. It's really important. Then I'm going to point out that when we're rounding, we're trying to find out, are we closer to the next tens, which is 30 or 3 tens, or are we closer to this tens that we already had, which is 2? So are we closer to 2 tens, or are we going to round up to 3 tens? The only way to find that out is to look at the number next door. And I draw a little door on it. You can put a doorknob if you're super cutesy. But really, we're just trying to drive home the point. To find the tens, we have to look at the number next door because that's the one that's going to tell us, do we go up or do we stay the same? There are plenty of rhymes and little nicks and trying to get kids to memorize. I use them just to kind of help them remember, but you're really wanting to drive home that point of understanding. That's why we're using this and the visual on top of those little rhymes. The rhyme I specifically use is 4 and below, let it go, leave it alone, nothing's going to happen. And 5 and above, give it a shove to the next number. So that's what I do. 4 and below, let it go. 5 and above, give it a shove. Do not rely on that anytime you're teaching kids to memorize. Never a good sign, especially when it comes to math. But I always make them draw this visual. Every single time we do a rounding problem, that'll be off to the side of the problem. So this is getting driven home a million times throughout the year. So really, really use this. I started drawing the squiggly to even break it up further in their brain that there is a difference between the two. The way you use this number line here is you're going to put 20 down here at the bottom. And we're trying to figure out, should we go up or go down to 20? So the next one is 30. This aspect is kind of hard to understand for them because they don't see a 30 here. So you're trying to really show we're either going down to 2 or up to 3, staying at 2 or up to 3, staying at 2 or up to 3. And then we really want to put that halfway point. That's, again, why we have this line. So everything's connecting together. This halfway point is that 5. So what's halfway between 20 and 30? 25. Now, once you've had this mapped out, we can just plug in this number. And so visually, they're really going to recognize, well, 24 is down here. Is it closer to 30 or is it closer to 20? It's closer to 20, so this number rounds to 20. If they don't want to keep using this, I kind of force them to use this the first couple times so they can really understand why we're going up, why we're going down. They can also use this and say, hey, it's 4 and below. We're going to let it go or leave it alone. Nothing's going to change. And it becomes a 0. I like to tell them it's rounding. The roundest number I've ever heard of is a circle, which is a 0. And then this one just brings down and it's 20. Now let's use a bigger number. Okay, so now we got a bigger number. This is going to scare them a little bit. I might not go all the way from tens to 100,000s, go from tens to hundreds and work your way up. However, with this one, we're going to say now we're rounding to the 100,000s place value, again using those words. The first step has to be finding the 100,000s. Ones, and I go through every single one just to kind of give them those repetitions. Ones, tens, hundreds, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. We're going to underline it. Again, we cannot do this problem unless we look at the number next door. It is always to the right, always to the right. Number next door is a 2. You can do it multiple ways. The first way, and the way that a lot of your kids are going to eventually get to, because we all like the shortcuts as soon as we understand it, so make sure we understand it. A 2 means let it go. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to stay the same. So the answer to this problem is going to be 4, 0. And then everything else comes down and goes to 0, because rounding, everything that's not the thing that we are rounding to becomes the roundest number we've ever heard of, which is zeros. So that's this way, but again, that's a kind of almost a trick. An understanding needs to take place beforehand. So let's go over here to the number line. Again, it's vertical just because I like that understanding of it is literally going up or it is literally going down. We're going to plug these in. Now, again, it all matters on this number. So we're either going down to 4, staying the same. So we're going to write that down, 400,000. Or it's going up to 500,000. This halfway point's just for our eyes to understand what is halfway between these numbers. That would be 450,000. And then the last step to this is to plug in this number. Where does this number go? Is it bigger than 450 or is it smaller than 450? And it's really cool when you're walking around and trying to figure out, kids, what their understanding of these numbers are based on where they put this. If they put it very, very low, they think that's not very big. And it's like, yeah, it should be a little higher. If it's really close to this, maybe they don't understand your numbers. So kind of use that as you weigh. 4, 2, 6, 3, 7, 9. And then you're just going to ask the question, is it closer to 400,000 or closer to 500,000? They're going to say closer to 400,000, you get this number. One thing to be aware of is if they are really into this, let them keep doing it, but ask them to explain how would you have used this. We're wanting them to get a little bit faster if we can, but this level of understanding is amazing, and we want to keep this. So every kid needs to be able to do this, but it's okay if they're doing this. If they're starting to do this too much, just have them quickly show you that they know how to do this. And that's how you do NBT2 with rounding.